Hey, I'm Lorna. Welcome back to my channel, Thread and Yarn. It's all about sewing and knitting and general crafting, cozy joy. So today my video is going to be about making an outfit for a uni reunion I've got coming up. It's going to be a sort of cream tea or some afternoon tea sort of reception for a couple hours, and then there's a formal dinner in the evening. So it's in 3 weeks' time. I've only just got around to starting making. I've had ideas in my head for a while, but for a long time I've been wanting to make a matching waistcoat and pleated trouser set. So I thought if I do it in a I'm addicted to linen, so it's going to be in linen. But if I do it in a sort of lighter colour like this, then maybe it'd be good for the daytime. So I've got this natural sort of undyed coloured linen from Ray Stitch. You have loads of beautiful linen. And I've made some pomona pants in it actually, and I know that it's thick enough because I did get some off-white linen, which I think I put in one of my videos about the special occasions outfits. But it just ended up being a bit too thin, and I thought off-white trousers are a bit too thin. No. So I've got this. I know it makes good trousers, and I think it's going to make a really cool fitted waistcoat and trouser set. I am in the middle of designing a waistcoat pattern, and I was going to use it for this, but I just don't think I'm far enough along yet. There's still some tweaks of things I need to make, and I want this to look really cool. Given I've only got sort of 3 weeks left, I don't want to be stressing about minor details and stuff. I just want to have an enjoyable sew and look forward to my event. So I'm going to be using the Merchant & Mills Miller waistcoat pattern, which I've made before. I made it in a black cord and I really love it. I wear it quite a lot. I know the pattern fits me. I know the adjustments I made, which were minor to be honest. I think that'll be a safe choice. I'm going to line it. I haven't figured out in what yet, but probably something natural coloured or off-white. And then for the trousers, I was thinking about the Paradise pattern Protea pants. So I think that's what I've settled on, although they are really quite like voluminous. I think it will look good with the fitted Miller waistcoat. And I have seen some people sew down the pleats on the front of their Protea pants. I am going to make them up as they are, and if I feel like maybe it's just too much volume, I might consider sewing down the pleats. So we'll see how it goes. I've got some cool buttons as well. Let me see if I can find them. Here they are. They're from Pigeon Wishes. I think they're going to look really cool with this. Getting a lot of reflection, there you go. Yeah, it's just going to be a bit of a sew along. Hope you enjoy seeing the process. Fingers crossed it works out in the end. But I haven't really had a whole day to sit down and sew for a while, but it's Bank Holiday Monday, so I've got a whole day. Have done a bit of gardening this morning at my allotment, but other than that, I've got a nice free day to crack on with this, so I'm excited for that. I've got my fabric already washed. I'm going to give it a press in a minute. I've got a cup of tea. I'm going to put some music or podcast on, and I'm going to settle in. Join me for a cozy sew along. So I'm going to cut out the trousers first before doing the waistcoat, because they're going to be the sort of limiting factor in terms of the amount of fabric I have. I'm going to lay that out first, and then I'm going to piece the waistcoat in amongst that, because the waistcoat pieces are quite small. I'm hoping I've got enough fabric. I always play this game of fabric chicken where I don't want to buy as much as the pattern says, because I always think, I end up with so much waste. I never seem to use it all, but I have been caught out on occasion, like I was with my birthday dress video. So I've got 2.5 meters of this linen, and because I made pomona pants from it before, I also have some scrap left over from that, so I think it's going to be okay. If it's not, I might take a bit of volume off the trousers. So yeah, I'm going to cut the trouser pattern out first from the paper. I got it printed online. Yeah, and then I'll start laying out the fabric. So I've ironed the fabric. I'm just laying my pieces out. I folded the fabric sort of in half. Look how much fabric I have. This is why I never order as much fabric as it says. It's hard to know, isn't it, to not be caught out. I am narrowing the front a little bit. So for view A, you cut it as it is. For view B, which doesn't have the front pleat, you can fold the pleat away entirely, but I've just narrowed it a bit because I think I just want to reduce a tiny bit of the volume. But look how much fabric, and this is doubled over, so And then I've got my leftover fabric. So I finished cutting out the waistcoat and the trousers. Here's some of it. I've got loads of leftover fabric, crazy, but I'm thinking maybe I will make a blazer out of it and I can have a 3-piece suit. I don't think I'm going to do this in time for my event, but in the future, I think it would be a really cool outfit. I was just trying to decide on the lining fabric for the waistcoat and for the pocket bags of the trousers. And I remembered I've got this cotton. I think it's from Merchant & Mills. It's sort of a natural hand-loomed cotton with a corally stripe. It's quite lightweight, so I wouldn't be able to wear it on its own without lining it. So I think it would be a great lining. And it goes quite nicely with this. Everything's cut. My pile of chaos is here. And I've been interfacing the pieces, so I'm all ready to get started sewing. So the Miller waistcoat has welt pockets, which I think are a lovely addition to make it look like a suiting waistcoat. And when done neatly, they are really lovely, attractive pockets. It went pretty well when I did my black cord one, but obviously black cord hides flaws a lot more than natural linen. So I'm hoping that this is going to go well. So far, I've marked out the pockets. I've been very precise, and although I'll be doing it on a carpet, but my kitchen table is very old and bumpy. So yeah, I've marked them out. I've got the little welt flats. I'm going to attach these next. The back is interfaced. Once I've attached these, it will be a case of attaching the pocket bags and then sort of flipping the whole thing inside out, so you get that really neat sort of welt edge. So I've stitched down the welt covery bit. It will get folded up like this. And now I'm doing the pocket bags. So I've put the lower pocket bag in, and then I've got the bigger one here, which gets sort of, gets on this direction, gets laid on top, and then next bit is to stitch down here, coming together slowly. This is something I'm taking a lot of time over because I don't want this to look naff. Right, so I've done the scary bit of cutting the hole from the wrong side. So now I just need to push these bits through. You can start to see the inside of the pocket and how the welt will look. This will be easier to do when I've got 2 hands free. Good, what we don't want is loads of gathering here, but I think when that presses, that's going to be fine. Hello, so more work continues on my waistcoat today. It's a gloriously sunny day outside, and I'm working at the kitchen table, which is very nice. I'm still doing the waistcoat. I've attached the welt pockets as I showed you last time. I'm just attaching the shoulders together, and something else I did this morning was to sew the waist ties. See, there's the welt pockets. I'm really pleased with them. So I sewed the waist ties on the back piece. They're just sort of tubes turned inside out. I always use something like a knitting needle to poke out tubes like that, unless they're open on both sides, and you can use a safety pin to sort of pull through. But instead I use the round bit of this nice chunky knitting needle. So yeah, they're just kind of tubes with an end attached to the side and stitched down in place, sort of midway point between the side seam and the centre back seam. So it's taking shape. I'm quite enjoying the combination of the really sort of lightweight cotton with this linen for the lining. I'm going to sew the shoulder seams now, and then I think it's attaching the interfacing and the facing for the button band, and then I think it's probably repeating these steps for the lining and putting this whole thing together. So all of my outer is attached now. I've pressed the seams, and I've done the same with my lining. So next step is to attach the outer to the lining itself. I've got quite a small table, so it's not super easy, but we'll do it step by step. So it's just a matter of laying them right sides together and matching up the seams. I marked my buttonholes with pins and tried to make sure the needle's going to go in right where it comes out. I've started working on the trousers this morning. I have a bit of a cold and I'm moving slowly, but I think it's going well so far. So I'm using the Protea Pants pattern by Paradise Patterns. I've used some of her patterns before, as I said, and they've gone well, so fingers crossed. I've gone straight into my linen instead of doing a muslin or a sort of draft pair, so I'm hoping it works out. But this linen by Ray Stitch is lovely. What I've done so far is cut out the pieces, and then I've pressed the front pleat of the trouser. I've narrowed the pleat a little bit because I don't want them to have quite as much volume, so it is slightly narrower. I've pressed it and I've basted it down on both of the fronts. It does press really nicely. I do love working with linen. I just think it's so easy to work with compared to slippery fabrics. Ignore my disgusting stained ironing board. And then I've also been working on some pockets. I'm quite enjoying some of the features of this. So there's the 2 separate pocket bags and some linen facing. So this will be on the side of the opening. So if you see a bit into the pocket, you'll only see the same self fabric, the linen, which is, I always think, is a nice touch. So I've top stitched that down. That went fairly well. I do like a bit of edge stitching, and then I French seamed the first one together. So I'm happy with this pattern so far. I feel like it's got a couple of features which makes me think that she's really thought about how the trousers will feel and making them feel kind of special. So I like little slow details like this that make it have a bit more finesse, or a bit of a sort of more special finish to something. So I'm just attaching the pockets now. They're all French seamed. Here's the front, here's the pocket bag. I'm sewing down the pocket opening, and then I'll show you the next step. There's a bit of interfacing here as well, just to stabilise the pocket, so another nice little detail. So once you've done that, it looks like this, which I think is a really nice, neat way of keeping the pocket lining inside, and just a nice finish. So yeah, enjoying sewing this up so far. Some nice little details. I really like neat finishing things like this. I just think it makes it feel less sort of homemade and just, yeah, a bit more, I don't know, professionally crafted, I guess. Not that there's anything wrong with homemade, it just feels less makeshift, I guess. But yeah, I'm enjoying these little details. So just finished doing a load of overlocking for the crotch seam. Also, I wanted to point out, it took me years to realise that I could just overlock all the pieces all together without stopping. You see what I mean? Leaving little gaps but not cutting the thread. So I've done that. Before I was cutting and starting each piece separately, and it's so much quicker to just whiz along and do this. Just in case that didn't occur to you, it didn't to me for quite a while. So it is a roasting hot Saturday and I'm making some progress. I found this zip, which is lucky because I realised I didn't buy a zip for the pattern. And I remembered that I had kept some trousers some old Persephone pants I made right at the beginning that didn't really fit me well anymore. And I'd kept them so I could keep the button and the zip so the hardware wouldn't be wasted. And I'm really glad I did, because it is a perfect match. Yeah, I quite like making use of stuff I already have rather than buying new stuff. So, I mean, who doesn't? It's very cost effective. So, happy with that. So I just need to tidy it up a bit because I've just unpicked it out of the other trousers. So I'm going to tidy it up and then I'm going to get on with the zip. So I'm just keeping working on the zipper. I've attached the zipper to the fly guard and to the front trouser. I'm wondering whether to redo this because it's slightly wobbly. I probably where I bumped against the zipper. I do have a zipper fit, but I think my concentration waned for a second because I'm boiling. And then I've also attached the zipper facing, the fly facing, and this is a nice neat edge stitch line. Happy with that. I've opted for the clean approach again rather than top stitching, so there's no edge stitch on the visible side. So yeah, making progress. So it's really coming along. I'm liking how it's looking. The pleats are looking really sharp and the fly looks good. So I've attached the other side now. It all works. And I lined the pocket bags, I forgot to say, the same as my waistcoat so that they feel more like a set. So I'm really liking how it's looking. I'll do that with one hand. It recommended a longer stitch length on the fly, sort of top stitching, so I did that, and then a bar tack is what it recommended afterwards. So I did that, and then I forgot that my machine goes right back to the settings on before, so, or the automatic setting, so it's narrower here, but I didn't want to unpick the linen, and I don't think you can tell. But yeah, so this is where I've gotten to. Now it's about doing side seams and crotch seams. So I'm just going to whiz those up on the machine and on the overlocker. So I've sewn up my side seams and overlocked all the edges. There you go. It's a little bit tricky because you have to make sure that you're not going to go over the pocket opening, but you also need to go close enough to the pocket opening that you finish it neatly. So I did have to correct it a little bit, but yeah, and that's why the pocket facing is useful. So if you're, this is from the front, if you're looking in, the pocket's a little bit open, you get the facing instead of the lining. So that's great. And now I've put one leg inside the other because I'm going to finish sewing up the crotch seam. So here are my two legs, one inside the other. This is the fly extension and guard. And then I'm just trying to match the crotch seams. This is the sort of thing I spend a while on because it can make it look not as professional if it's not matched up that well. I don't have any special technique other than making sure that they're both pressed and holding them in place with them both, the seam allowances facing the same way, and pinning it down and just going over it really slowly. Sometimes the top one can slide a bit as you sew, so I'll often pause, lift my presser foot up and put it down again on it, just to stop any pushing. That's it really. So once I've gone around here, it's going up the back of the crotch, and then I can turn them inside out and I can do my first fit check. So here's where we've gotten to with it. I'm really enjoying these pleats and the way that this linen presses. I've done the fly, I've joined the legs together, I've overlocked the inside so it's all nice and neat. So now it's just a matter of trying these on and making sure that they fit. Okay, so here's where I've gotten up to on my Protea pants. I've put the zipper fly in, pockets are all done. Just need to do the waistband, belt loops and hemming. But I'm just going to show you a fit check of these. I'm really liking how they worked. I have made them straight with no mods at all. And I don't think I'm going to need to make any, so that's always good news. It's got a good fit around the back. It's got back darts. You could increase these or decrease these, I suppose, but I'm happy with that fit. I like that it's quite fitted around the waist. It feels quite tailored, and then you've got a lot of volume not long after, but you can see that it does fit. You could also increase the pleats if you needed to. I'd probably do that instead of adjusting side seams, would be taking in the darts and the pleats. But I don't need to, I don't think. I think they've got a really good classic silhouette. I think they'll look great with the waistcoat. So now's attaching the waistband and then popping a button on here and some belt loops. So I'm happy with the fit check so far, so I'm just going to go on to do the belt loops, and I just thought I'd show you, you probably already know, but I was going to show you a little trick for if you don't have a loop turner, how to turn them inside out. So you can do this with spaghetti straps as well, if they are wide enough. I've just stitched down a sort of wider bit of fabric so that there's a little loop, and to turn it inside out, what I'm going to do is use this safety pin. You can also trim, I should probably trim the edge a little bit as well. I'll do that first. Just trimming close to the seam line, but not too close. Okay, that just helps the next step go smoothly. So what you can do is pop a safety pin on the end, like this, change the focus, and then turn it so I've put it through one side of it, and then I'm going to pop it into the hole like this, and then I'm going to push it through to see the end disappear, and then I'm going to keep moving it along that channel. It can be a little bit stiff at the start, especially with a thicker fabric like linen, so don't put it too close to the edge because it can tear through, especially a woven fabric. But then you just keep pushing it through the channel and then moving. God, it's very stiff. Then move it, there we go. Then moving the excess along. Like that. There we go. You can just fold belt loops over as well, but I quite like turning them inside out like this pattern recommends, because it means you get a neat finish and you don't have any frayed edges along the back. So eventually you should see your safety pin coming out. There he is. And just gently, there we go. So now I've got the turned out bit coming through. So now I'm just going to move it all along. All done. So that's just a nice way to, or you could just buy a loop turner. If you have thin spaghetti straps, I think the loop turner. But I'm just going to give it a press, and now I've got set the belt loops, which I'm now going to chop up into 5 3-inch pieces. So I've got my waistband all prepped and ready to put on. I did have to piece the lining together, but you can barely tell, plus it's the lining, so I wanted to have enough fabric left over to make a blazer, and this curved waistband I felt like was just going to be kind of wasteful of the fabric cutting into it, so I pieced it together from other little bits, but you really can't tell. I'm quite happy with my edge stitching along the binding, so this is for the clean finish of the inside of the waistband instead of top stitching it, folding it down and top stitching it through both sides, which you often do with like jeans or stuff you want top stitching shown with, but this is going to be a clean sort of formal trouser inside. So I'm happy with this. And yeah, the edge stitching has come out well. I spent a while getting my tension right and following the foot rather than the needle, so the edge stitching's pretty neat. Now it's attaching the outer waistband to the trousers. So I'm at my event, and in classic fashion I still haven't finished my outfit, so we're in our room and I'm just doing a little bit of hand sewing, popping the buttons on. But I've got a couple of hours, so it's going to be alright. I've chosen these Savannah buttons that I showed you earlier. I think they're really cool. I like a little bit of contrast, I think. But this is pretty much it, and then I've got to cut off a couple of loose threads and then we're there.